Sup you beautiful people. Hope you've had a fantastic day. Welcome back to another new episode of What If Deku Becomes a Pokemon Trainer. In this story, it is simply what you might expect. The story of My Hero Academia, but in world filled with not only quirks, but also Pokemon. If you guys enjoy this what if, comment down below and let me know. And go ahead and check out other what ifs in the channel, after watching this video. Before we get into it though, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like, and also share this video with your friends. So let's start this video. Izuku's POV. Pass. 5 kids, no older than 4, stood in front of a gate of fences, in the middle of the forest outside Musatafu. The locked part of the fence opened wide, the 2 fences posts blasted off and laying on the ground with scorch marks. The remaining fence held up signs that warned that it was a restricted area. Come on. The lead kid shouted, his still smoking finger pointed towards the restricted area. Let's go fight bad guys and catch Pokemon. The lead kid had spiky blonde hair, ruby red eyes, and wore khaki shorts and a navy blue shirt with a skull on it. In the bag strapped to his shoulder was a bag full Pokeballs, likely stolen from his parents. He also held a bug-catching net in his other hand. By the boy's side was a short bipedal Pokemon, its fur bluish with a cream-colored underside. Its arms looked like 2 stubby paws, its eyes looked closed, and had a long but thin snout. What was most unique of this Pokemon was the 4 red circles on the back of its spine. Snackle. The Pokemon shouted its name in excitement, the spots on its back lighting up and engulfing its back in fire, though the Pokemon wasn't affected by it at all. Yeah. The other 3 kids shouted, obeying the lead kid's order. One had spiky black hair with a purple shirt, brown shorts, and a pancham by his side. Another had light black hair flowing from the sides who had a toothy smile, wore a light blue shirt and dark gray shorts, and by his side was a Tangela. The last kid was whiter than the other 2, with a scruff of brown hair keeping him from being bald, wore a white shirt and green shorts, crimson red wings sprouted out his back, and a sparrow hovering next to him. The kids' Pokemon cried out their own names, mimicking the lead kid's Cyndaquil. Oh yeah. The last kid said hesitantly. The last kid had messy green and black hair, emerald green eyes, and wore an orange shirt with blue shorts. By his side was an Eevee, who too cried out its name in hesitation, but followed the lead of his owner. That was me and Eevee, back when we were around 4 years old. We followed Koch-chan and the rest as they passed the gate, myself hesitant to cross because of the signs. But seeing Koch-chan walk by with such courage and certainty filled me with awe and similar courage. Come on, Eevee. I said to Eevee, passing the fence and rejoining the others from behind, all the while looking at the blonde kid in awe and respect. Eevee nodded and followed his trainer, looking at the Cyndaquil beside Bakugo with a look of curiosity. Koch-chan was always so confident and assured of himself. No matter what he decided to do, he always ran towards that goal unafraid and excelled. All the neighborhood kids followed him everywhere. Koch-chan's Cyndaquil was equally as vocal and confident as its owner, but the kids' Pokemon followed its lead too. While they were arrogant and narcissistic, they always inspired me to be courageous as well. His courage inspired me to be the same as him. But then his quirk appeared and everything started to change. He started to change. And before I knew it, the kid I looked up to, my best friend, turned to my worst bully and tormentor. Anyone has a chance of redemption. Right. Third POV. Izuku arrived at his second day of UA High School. His finger was all rested up after a good night's rest. He woke up at the break of dawn, and did an hour of standard exercise before showering and leaving for school, Pikachu trying to make the journey a race. He met up with Iida on the way in, followed by Momo as her limo dropped her off by the entrance. They proceeded to find and arrive at room 1 where they talked and waited for the rest of the class to arrive, and the start of the class. Izuku was hounded by Kirishima and Kaminari, the 2 recalling the apprehension test from yesterday, and hounded him for what his quirk was. The more people who came in, the more people asked what his quirk was. The most determined of askers were Higakure, Uraraka, Iida, Kirishima, Mina, and even Todoroki when he came in perked up at the topic of Izuku's quirk. My quirk? Izuku asked. After receiving nods from his classmates, Izuku looked at Pikachu nervously, the electric mouse Pokemon equally as nervous. What should I say? Izuku panicked internally. I can't tell them about One for All. What did I tell Momo and Serena about it? Oh, you're right. It's called Aura Force. Izuku said. Aura Force? Uraraka repeated confused. Let me explain. Izuku said. Aura is the spiritual life energy that resides in both people and Pokemon. Many Pokemon researchers claim that it is a key component in not only our life essence, but also part of the bond between people and Pokemon. Pokemon can also use their own aura to power themselves like Lucario. My quirk allows me to access my aura safely, giving me super strength and speed. Not technically a lie. Izuku muttered mentally. Good thing All Might helped me when rewriting my quirk status. I think I got it, Kirishima said. But what about that lightning that shot out of you? And your finger? Uraraka joined in. Why did it break during the ball toss? Like what happened during the entrance exam. The lightning was the excess energy of my aura. Izuku answered. My aura took a while to build up before I could use it safely, so my quirk manifested later than usual. Even so, if I use too much of one, I mean my aura in any given limb, I strengthen, my limbs break. I can use it safely by allowing the energy to flow throughout my body continuously and safely, but the excess energy of my aura spills out as the green lightning. When I threw the ball in the ball toss, I use my current 100% of my aura on my finger to launch it farther. How much can you use before breaking? Iida asked. About 5%. Izuku answered. I can sometimes push it up to 6% for a short while. The group of students there had wide eyes and mouths at the revelation of Izuku's power. Even though he told me before, it still surprises me how powerful Izuku actually is. Momo thought. And since his aura is still growing, he is sure to get stronger over time. Interesting. Iida thought. I know other quirks sometimes use their own vitality or energy to power themselves, but I never heard of a quirk that uses one's own life force. That sounds rather dangerous. That sounds awesome, Kirishima said. And so manly. We definitely need to spar sometime, Mido bro. Mido bro? Izuku stuttered confused. Pikachu chuckled at the name. First those hilarious names from your girlfriends, and now this. Oh, I'm going to hang this over your head, Mido bro. Izuku swiftly whipped his head towards Pikachu, his cheeks flaring red. They are not my girlfriends. Izuku yelled mentally. Whatever helps you sleep at night, easy. Pikachu fired back with a smirk. Izuku grumbled, but before he could say anything, Kaminari said, Hey, by the way, Midoriya, how come you can talk with your Pikachu? You two look at each other and seem to have a conversation, but say no words. Izuku and Pikachu panicked momentarily before Izuku answered quickly. Oh since my quirk allows me to use my own aura, it also helps me to slightly communicate with my Pokemon. It doesn't help me talk with all Pokemon, just my own. My guess is because we share a stronger bond through our aura that we can talk with each other. That sounds so cool. Togakure squealed. I wish I could talk like that with Kecleon too. Well, it isn't actually talking. I simply just understand their emotions and thoughts in them with me. Izuku lied. I can't say that I can talk with you guys through our connected aura. The more suspicious and convenient my quirk sounds, the more people will be suspicious and look into my quirk. Regardless of that, Midoriya, is your use of your aura truly safe? Iida said. If what you told is true, then doesn't it sound risky to use your own life force, especially in extreme amounts? Using your own life energy sounds incredibly dangerous to misuse, even if under extraneous circumstances. Izuku flinched and froze at the question, noticing the growing concern and questions in the others' minds. You see, as I told you 2 days ago, Izuku mind flashed back to All Might's words from 10 months ago. One for All harnesses the physical abilities and life energy of its past users, and aura is the life force and spiritual energy that resides in every human in Pokemon. So that means that One for All stores both the physical abilities and aura of its past users, and allows for you to use their power, along with your own, to be so strong and powerful. Izuku said, finishing All Might's sentence. All Might nodded and said, correct. One for All is a literal whirlwind of the combined physical abilities and aura of all who have ever wielded it, including my own now. Izuku quickly thought of a discreet excuse to tell them. Well, I can use my aura. One for All also uses the aura of its past users mostly, so the risk of draining my own aura and life energy is rather slim. But how can I explain that to them without revealing that I got 8 other people's aura power for me to use, including freaking All Might's? I think I know a solution to that, Momo said, drawing the group's attention. My guess is that Izuku's aura replenishes over time, much like how one's own vitality and stamina is replenished over time by simply eating, drinking, and sleeping. My own quirk creation uses the lipids in my own body to create new atoms and create anything I can think of. However, I still would need to refuel my body with more lipids before and after I use my quirk. So Izuku's aura must likely replenish the same way, albeit more efficiently than mine by just relaxing and recharging. The group was stunned in silence at Yaoi Rozo's genius explanation. Yeah. Izuku said as he reclaimed his focus. That's exactly right. Thank you, Momo. And thank Arceus that I have a genius friend like you. Momo blushed at Izuku's praise, before stuttering out, "You welcome, Izuku." Uraraka, Toru, and Mina of the group noticed Momo's reaction to Izuku's praise. Uraraka's blank eyes twitched in jealousy, Toru frowned, though nobody could see, and Mina's eyes narrowed before a smirk appeared on her lips. Wonderful deduction, Yaoi Rozo. Iida dramatically praised the creation girl. I am sorry for my rather blunt question, Midoriya. It's fine, Iida. Izuku eased the blue-haired teen. By the by, I don't think we actually formally introduced ourselves. Kirishima pointed out. I'm Ijiro Kirishima. Nice to meet you, Mido bro. And I'm Denki Kaminari. Kaminari jumped in. Kaminari's fine. Nice to meet you formally, Midoriya. Likewise. Izuku nodded to them. And I am Mina Ashido. But you can call me Mina. Mina butted in, her face a tad bit more closer to Izuku's own, much to the surprise and rising jealousy of the other girls. Nice to meet you, Midoriya. Although, that's quite a mouthful to say. Ooh, I know. I'll just call you Midori. Midori. Izuku stuttered while blushing furiously. Yep. Mina said, her face gaining a teasing, sultry look. Simple, easy to say, and a cute nickname for a rather cute-looking boy. Izuku's brain was currently going through a nuclear meltdown. While Iida was berating Mina for giving a nickname without consent, Kirishima raised an eyebrow at Mina and gained a pensive look. Huh. Ashido has teased other guys before, hell even me, but this seems different. The red-dyed-haired teen thought. While the three girls were currently exuding a rather malevolent aura of jealousy, Kaminari meanwhile looked at the scene and the looks of the girls, and slumped sadly. Crap. Not only 2 days in and Midoriya has already snagged an unofficial harem of girls. Lucky bastard. Meanwhile, Todoroki looked at the group with narrowed eyes, more specifically at Midoriya, and his explanation about his quirk. Interesting. The teen thought. Over by the door, Bakugo stared at Izuku, hearing the whole interaction, and glared at the green bean with an immense amount of hatred. Bullshit. Bakugo thought angrily. This whole thing is bullshit. Late blooming quirk. Useless Deku with friends. Letting that loser Pikachu stay out. Spineless Deku having a bunch of sluts already begging to suck his surely useless little dick. All of this is total bullshit. I'm going to ruin that useless little shit. Soon after, all 19 students sat in their seats as first period began. Izuku looked at his schedule of classes. Alright, so it's a short homeroom to begin the day followed by English, Math, Science, and Japanese. Then it's lunchtime, and wrapping the day up with hero training and hero-related classes at the end of the day. Sounds simple enough. Although I wonder if Mr. Aizawa is going to have us do another test where we could get expelled again. Shut your fucking mumbling mouth, Deku, before I blast it off. Bakugo growled in anger and annoyance. Izuku flinched, quickly shutting up before encompassing himself and trying his best to ignore the glare from Bakugo in front of him. Of all the students to put uni around, it's him. Pikachu grumbled. Yeah, the universe has it out for you, boss. Aizawa stepped into the room and stood in front of the class. Good morning, Mr. Aizawa. The class, sans grumbling Bakugo, all said. Morning. Aizawa yawned out. As your syllabus surely states, this will be a quick homeroom. I'll inform you of any important events coming up during the day while taking roll call. But first, you all likely remember that we have a missing person to this group. The class subconsciously peeked at the empty desk behind Izuku. Izuku frowned, remembering Minetta's expulsion from the hero course, but assured himself that he did all he could for him in their talk. Minoru Mineta has been expelled from the hero course, Aizawa said. Well, this would also include expulsion from UA altogether. Mineta will be transferred to general studies. Still, we are down to 19 students, an uneven number that is unsatisfactory. So, we will be adding in a new student to class 1A. How was the class's general reaction to the news? I guess that makes sense, Kyokujiro said. If the class is uneven, it would be more difficult to pair us up in projects or hero training. Oh, I wonder who it is, Mina said. Please be a hot girl. Please be a hot girl. Please be a hot girl. Kaminari whispered, his fingers crossed. Izuku was surprised at the news of a new classmate, but before he could mutter anything about the situation, Aizawa said okay, you can come on in. The door to the classroom opened up and Izuku gaped in shock. Hi, my name is Serena Mariella. Serena introduced herself, clothed in a UA school uniform. It's nice to meet everyone. While Kaminari was mentally cheering, Izuku gaped in shock at his friend, now fellow classmate. She said that she was going to a hero school, but I didn't think it would be UA too, Izuku thought surprised. Why didn't she tell me before? She looks beautiful in that Onaifa, why am I still complimenting every girl I see? Serena noticed Izuku staring in shock and showed a small giddy smile, and winked discreetly at the green-haired teen. Izuku blushed before shaking his head and compassing himself. Bakugo noticed Serena's action and smiled smugly, clearly believing the action to be directed towards himself. You'll sit in desk 19, the empty desk behind Midoriya over there. Aizawa directed the Hydroquirk girl to her desk. Anyway, that's all I have to say for now. He grabbed a yellow beanie from behind his podium. Now stay here until your first period teacher arrives. I'm going to take a nap. That's it, the class all thought exasperatedly. As Aizawa left the room, Serena immediately ran over to Izuku and engulfed the teen into a hug. Surprise, Izu. Eh? Momo, Uraka, Mina, and Higakure yelled as they witnessed the new girl suddenly hugging Izuku in horror, especially as Izuku quickly hugged back. Serena. Izuku said smiling. You were going to UA all this time, why didn't you tell me? I wanted it to be a surprise. Serena said, pulling back to meet Midoriya's eyes. So, surprise. Yeah. Definitely surprise, Izuku said. The two stared into each other's eyes. Until, excuse me, but what is going on here? Momo's voice broke the two out of their trance. The two looked at the rest of the class. The most simplest synopsis of the entire class's reactions was surprised. Kaminari was banging his head on his desk. Uraka, Higakure, and Momo has blank frozen looks on their face, their eyes shadowed slightly in a dark comical aura. Mina was frozen in surprise before her eyes narrowed and smiled cheekily. Todoroki merely raised an eyebrow. Bakugo meanwhile had a face that seemed to combine shock, disgust, embarrassment, and anger all wrapped into one contorted face. My, you two seem quite close, Mina said with emphasis. Izuku and Serena took note of that and looked back at each other, noticing the still hugging, Serena's large chest squashed onto Izuku's chest. The two separated quickly, blushing. Sorry, Izuku muttered, rubbing the back of his neck while smiling meekly. We've hugged before, but it's still embarrassing, especially with Serena's figure so mature. Yeah. Sorry. Got carried away. Serena muttered too, rubbing her arm and smiling meekly. No matter how much we hug, it's still so embarrassing, especially with Izuku's chest so chiseled. The catcher meanwhile had his hands over his mouth, doing his hardest from laughing out. You are so hopeless, boss. Oh, I'm going to die of laughter before the week is through. Now that you are done with your intimacy, Momo growled. May I ask what this is all about? Yeah, same. Uraraka whispered in a scary voice. Ditto. Kagakure said in an equally scary voice. Izuku tried to say before the bell rang, signifying the beginning of first period. I'll tell you guy at lunch. His classmates nodded acceptedly. Izuku and Serena sat down in their seats, giving each other one last smile. Izuku looked forward to find Bakugo glaring at him with eyes full of hatred and rage, causing the green-haired teen to be momentarily frightened. Serena frowned, but before she could say anything, Present Mick burst into the room. Welcome Class 1 to English and Grammar. Present Mick yelled out while posing. Are you young listeners ready to rock? A few hours later, you met before UA. Izuku sat in a table in the large UA cafeteria. After finishing up the first 4 classes of the day, Wona headed to the UA cafeteria for lunch. It took a few moments for Izuku's friends to snap him out of him fanboying over Lunch Rush, the cook hero, and his Slurpuff, who served them the food. Now, seated in a table, Izuku faced the questions of his friends and fellow classmates. Serena sat by Izuku's left with Pikachu, who munched away on some electric-type Pokemon food, while Momo took the right. Uraraka, Higakure, and Mina sat on the other side of the table, with Iida beside the three. Kirishima sat nearby, in hearing distance, with Kaminari, Sero, and a fuming Bakugo. The rest of Class 1 sat in different tables, but made sure to see close enough to hear Izuku, curious over how he and Serena knew each other before UA. Yeah. Izuku said. We met while I was jogging around Dagaba Beach. Poor thing was almost having a heat stroke, so I called him off with my quirk. Serena jumped in. We talked, said that we were both going to a hero school, but I decided to keep the fact that it was UA a little secret. Worth it. Wait a moment. Iida interrupted. Did you take the practical entrance exam? Because I don't remember ever seeing you there. I think it would have been easy to not spot her with all those examens there, Iida. Uraraka pointed out. No, I didn't take the normal entrance exam. Serena answered. I actually took the recommendations entrance exam. Now I remember. Momo said suddenly, her eyes lighting up with clarity. I thought I recognized you. Flashback. Momo stood before a line as she looked at the 3-kilometer-long obstacle course. The course consisting of several turns and hills. Several Pokemon were spread around the course that seemed to be obstacles, and the course revolved around and snaked over several parts of the lake the course was over. She could also see remnants of what appeared to be shards of ice along the path. Momo wondered if perhaps the previous group that went included an ice quirk user. Okay, I recommended examines. Present Mick's voice snapped her out of her analysis of the course. She turned to look at the voice hero as he continued. This practical portion of the exam should be a piece of cake. All you have to do is run along this obstacle course to the finish line way over yonder. Mick pointed at the finish line at the end of the field. But of course it wouldn't be an obstacle course without some gnarly obstacles to impede your path. Be sure to get there first or as fast as you can. But be warned, attacking other examines is a big no-no, and you must keep to the course's path. Momo looked at her fellow examines. The ones that she took note of first was a blonde-haired girl with wavy blue highlights in her hair and girl with wavy dark green hair and shark-like teeth. You examines ready to get going, Present Mick yelled. On your marks. Momo readied herself, mentally picturing a bike to create and right, and opening up the buttons of her track shirt. Get set. Go. Momo immediately took off with the other examines, while finishing opening her shirt, and instantly creating and ejecting a bike from her open stomach. She quickly hopped on and sped her way past the other examines. She passed by what she thought was several body parts flying through the air, and almost thought that someone was ripped to pieces somehow, before she noticed that they moved around through the air sentiently, so she quickly figured it was someone's quirk. She almost rode over the ledge of the course as she brought her attention back to the course. Momo looked behind her through the bike side mirrors, and noticed the blonde-haired girl controlling and drawing in water from the lake below, and using the water to slide on, like she was surfing on land. At the end of the race, Momo managed to score first place in a photo finish with the floating body parts, that then latched onto each other to reveal that it was the green-haired girl from before. They were quickly joined by the water-sliding girl a second later, just as the horn sounded off. Momo remembered Present Mick saying some pleasantries and kudos, but she mostly tuned them out as she noticed the blonde-haired girl holding onto a necklace she had hidden under her shirt and prayed. Flashback over. I wanted to tell you before that you did well with your quirk, but I wasn't able to find you afterwards. Momo continued. So, you used the water below the lake to surf under for better mobility. Iida analyzed. Impressive. Thanks. Serena said. She lifted her hand up, and the orange juice from Iida's bottle flowed out and hovered over her hand in a ring. My hydroquirk allows me to absorb in and control the molecules of any type of water, and allows me to shape and use it however I wish, though I do need concentration. Serena held her hand towards Iida, and the orange juice flowed back down Iida's bottle. Thanks, so cool. Mina said. No wonder you got in on recommendations. You too, yeah, Momo. That creation quirk of yours is very awesome. Yeah, Momo. Momo said, confused. Well, your last name is a little long like Midori's, and with Midori always going you Momo, I thought the name fit. Mina explained. I hope it's alright. Momo smiled. It's alright, Mina. I would happy to have such a nickname by friends. I guess your forgetfulness to call me by my first name did something good after all, Izuku. Izuku rubbed his head embarrassed. Sorry. I guess I never really had anyone to call by their first name, other than Serena. Why? Uraraka pondered. Didn't you have friends in your last school? Izuku froze before looking down at his food with a somber look. No. Not really. The only friend I had as a kid was Kabakugo, and even then he and everyone else didn't really like to associate with the quirkless kid. Why would they think you were quirkless? Kagakure asked. You do have a quirk. My quirk manifested late due to my aura having to grow at a certain point for me to use. Izuku lied. It didn't manifest until a week before the entrance exam, and even then, you and Uraraka saw what happens if I go overboard. But before then, all the kids at my former school, they didn't bother wasting their time with the quirkless Deku. The mood at the table grew awkward and tense. Uraraka and Higakure felt terrible for ultimately asking those questions. Iida shook his head at the shameful actions and views of Izuku's former classmates. Momo clenched her fist underneath the table, anger directed at the kids from Aldera and guilt at herself for not knowing Izuku sooner and help him during this time. The Kachu growled at the memory of Izuku's former bullies and tormentors, sparks of electricity coming from his red cheeks. Serena looked at Izuku with sadness and awe. Izuku never liked talking about his old school, but he still told me about what he had to went through. Who tortured him. Serena peered discreetly at Katsuki Bakugo with utter disgust. But even through all that, Izuku never gave up on his dream. Even though he thought he was quirkless, he never gave up on his dream and goal. That inspired me to do the same. Serena smiled fondly at the memory of their first meeting. She looked at the sad green-haired teen. And even when he tortured you your whole life, you still went out him because you believed he could change, and to not be like him. You are one of a kind, Izu. Well, screw them. Serena said, drawing their attention. If they treated you horribly just because they thought you were quirkless, then they were not worth it. You never gave up on your dream and goal, and you are here, where you belong. And you helped me never give up too, even when others thought my quirk was useless. I'm only here because of you, Izu. So thank you for saving me, hero. Izuku looked astonished, tears welling up from the corners of his eyes. He smiled gratefully, and said thank you, Serena. They heard sniffles and returned their attention to the others where Higakure and Mina were comically crying. That was so touching. Mina said. Uraraka wiped a tear from her eye and smiled. Iida was shaking before dramatically clapping. Bravo. Bravo. What a wonderful, heartful moment between friends I have been honored to bear witness. Momo smiled and said, she is right, Izuku. You are more worthy of being a hero than any one of those degenerates. You saved me as well before. And even when you only had a powerful and dangerous quirk for only a week, you still worked out how to use it properly and effectively, when most people take years to figure out how to work their quirks. You are truly talented and worthy to be here. And we honored to be friends with you. Don't forget about us, boss. Pikachu jumped in. You're an awesome partner and even better friend to me and Eevee. Screw the haters that say you are useless. You aren't. We got your back and you ours. That's all that matters. My thoughts exactly. Izuku heard Eevee's voice in his head, as he felt Eevee's Pokeball shift and move. Izuku smiled brightly and said, thanks guys. And don't worry, I'll do my best. Too bright. The group thought dramatically at Izuku's blinding smile. Meanwhile, Bakugo, overhearing the whole thing, clenched his fists in anger. After they finished lunch, they proceeded towards their afternoon class that would make up the rest of the classes. Hero Basic Training. I am here. All Might shouted as he entered the room dramatically. Coming through the door like a hero. Immediately, the class descended into anarchy. The students' eyes were wide in awe at the symbol of peace, mouths either agape in awe or smiling ear to ear in excitement. Hell, even Bakugo was smiling. Holy crap. Kaminari swore excitingly. I can't believe it's really All Might. So he is a teacher. Kirishima smiled. This year is going to be so rocking and manly. I'm getting goosebumps. This is so cool. Ojiro said. He's wearing his Silver Age costume. Asui plainly said, as All Might marched ridiculously to the podium. All Might's Silver Age costume consisted of a red, white, yellow and blue suit. His upper half of the suit was a red suit that covered his whole chest and arms with white circles on his shoulders, white circles around his biceps, white lines going up from his sides, and a white circle in the middle surrounded by white lines shaped like arcs that reminded Izuku of the M-shaped version of an unknown. His legs were covered in blue pants with stripes around the sides, a yellow belt with a gray belt buckle with a red V, yellow armlets on his wrists that sprouted out yellow wings, and a blue cape strapped to his back. Izuku smiled fondly at All Might's dramatic antics. He always likes to put on a good show, Izuku thought. But that's one of the ways he is the best. Making everyone smile and alright. As dramatic and silly as he is, I can't argue with you there, boss, Pikachu said. Izuku noticed All Might give him a subtle, barely noticeable nod. Right. During class, we are just another teacher and student. No special treatment. No personal bias. If I'm going to be number one, then I have to work just as hard as everyone else. No special shortcuts. Izuku felt hands on his shoulders shaking him. He turned to see it was Serena, eyes wide with comedic sparkles in them. Izuku. Izuku. Serena said excitingly. It's really All Might. He looks so cool. Aren't you excited you are his #1 fan? Yeah. Izuku recomposed himself, smiling brightly. I was just surprised. He looks so awesome. All Might raised his hand, indicating the class to quiet down. Welcome Class 1A. To the most important class at UA High for Hero Course students. Think of it as Heroing 101. Here you will learn the basics of being a pro hero. And what it means to fight in the name of good and justice. Let's get into it. All Might struck a pose and flex. Izuku and Pikachu tried their hardest not to burst out laughing. Remember when he struck that pose and practiced in preparation for this moment? Izuku telepathically communicated to his Pokemon. He looks so goofy. EV said from inside his Pokeball. All Might brought out a card out of nowhere and showed it off in a pose to the students. Today's lesson will pull no punches. Written on the card in red letters was the words Hero Battle. Fight Training. Bakugo yelled in excitement, his maniac smile wide and his eyes bloodthirsty. Real combat already? Izuku questioned. UA surely doesn't hold back throwing us into the thick of things. But one of the key things of being a pro is. All Might pointed towards the wall beside him. Looking good. The 4 gray metal rows on the wall shifted and moved out, showing several suitcases with large green numbers on them, ranging from 1 to 20. These hero suits were designed based on your quirk registration forms and the requests you sent out before school started. The class cheered again in excitement. Izuku too smiled, determined and ready. Now suit up. And meet me in training ground beta. Yes sir. The class shouted. Later, All Might stood before a large dark tunnel, waiting for Class 1A to show up through the entrance. All Might heard the sounds of footsteps and silhouettes appearing through the dark tunnel and smiled wider. They say the clothes makes the pros, ladies and gentlemen, and behold, you are the proof. All Might said. Take this to heart. From now on you are all heroes in training. Class 1A stepped out of the tunnel one by one, each in a different and unique hero costume, each wearing various suits that were armored or made of skin-tight fabric, and many also wearing support items on them. This is getting me all ramped up. You guys look so cool. A final set of footsteps sounded as a final figure came out the tunnel, smirking. Flashback, 3 weeks ago, Izuku walked down the sidewalk alongside his mother, looking at his notebook, while mumbling excessively, filled with designs, along with copies of the clothing allowance and forms for his hero costume. Izuku. Inko snapped Izuku out of his mutterings. Calm down, Izuku. We are just going down to City Hall to update your quirk registration, not go to trial. Izuku Midoriya had changed over the course of Izuku's months of training with All Might. Over time, after the divorce between her and Hisashi Midoriya, Inko didn't bother worrying about her figure. However, after Izuku met All Might and she was brought on board with Izuku's training under Toshinori, she started to improve on herself as well. She ate a more healthy diet and started partaking in more stress-reducing exercises, allowing herself to relieve the stress and guilt she had kept up since that fateful day 11 years ago. Now, almost a whole year later, and the results showed. She was still around the same height as Izuku, though her figure became more slimmer, her waistline almost shrinking back to her original hurdless figure, but there was some ways to go. Inko even started wearing more fashionable clothes, with the help of her own best friend, and, coincidentally, the mother of Katsuki Bakugo, Mitsuki Bakugo. Izuku was always curious as to why his mother decided on this goal of hers. Not that he had any issue with his mother becoming healthier as well, and less constantly worried about him, but he would notice that during this time, his mom would go out more often, wearing fancy and fashionable clothes, some that Izuku swore weren't something Aunt Mitsuki would wear, or that his mom ever owned, and saying that she was having a night out with Aunt Mitsuki. Normally, these nights, she would come home, smiling from ear to ear, eyes half closed, and giggling like a schoolgirl. Izuku would ponder if his mom was going back out on the dating market, something that he was also not opposed towards, but left him wondering if so, why didn't she tell me? Shaking of the expositional thoughts from his mind, Izuku responded, I know, I'm just worried and double-checking to see if the designs I sent in didn't have any mistakes. I don't want to get back one of those poor suit designs that I made as a kid. Also, I'm worried that it would seem suspicious for someone who was thought as quirkless suddenly now has a quirk. Relax, honey, Inko said. We reviewed those designs 10 times back to back with Mr. Toshinori. They are perfect. And remember what Toshinori said, it was okay to change your quirk status, as long as it wasn't too often. Izuku sighed. Okay, you're right. I just don't want to screw things up and let you and Al Toshinori down. You won't, sweetheart. Inko said. Just always remember Izuku, even if you are unsure of yourself, when things look uncertain, just remember that you will have my full support, and I'll be there with you. In here. Inko pressed her finger to where Izuku's heart was. Izuku smiled gratefully, eyes welling with tears. Always. Flashback over. It isn't the flashiest costume ever, nor the most impressive. Izuku thought, his red and black armored shoes sounding off through the tunnel. But me, my mom, All Might, Eevee, and Pikachu, we all helped design it. Izuku reached up and secured the respirator mask by his neck. A suit of my own. My own hero costume. Izuku stepped out into the light, his hero costume on display. The suit was tight, yet flexible, for easy maneuverability, like a second skin, the suit's coloring taking on a dark moss green, with black and silver lined stripes in the shape of lightning curving down Izuku's side and chest. The jagged edges of the stripes ending by the middle of his lower pecs and abs, that were highlighted through the tight suit. White armored shoulder patches were placed on his shoulders that shaped at their ends to look like Pikachu's tail. His elbows were covered in black bands with his hands covered in white gloves with blue stripes by the wrists. A red belt was secured to his waist, its pouches holding first aid gear. His legs by the knees were covered in black armored gear, and his signature red shoes were on. By his neck was a grey armored respirator, hulls by the front to help breathe through noxious gases, and his sides lines in black stripes to imitate All Might's smile. And lastly, by the back of his neck was a green hoodie mask that Izuku could pull up to cover his face, the ears of the mask looking similar to Eevee's ears. Izuku looked at his gloves, smiling as he did some stretches to make sure it was easy for him to move around in. Hey Deku. Izuku heard Uraraka's voice, though slightly distorted. As Izuku turned, he said, "Oh hey, Uraraka, how's you?" That was as far as Izuku got before turning into a blushing, stuttering mess when he looked at Uraraka. "Love your costume," Uraraka said. "It's really cool. Not too flashy yet not boring either. It suits you." The Uraraka hero costume was a skin-tight black, white, and pink suit, emphasis on skin-tight. Her suit hugged her curves to great detail, which was super effective against Izuku's eyes and imagination. Around her waist and hips was a whitish-pink belt of sorts with a pink circle in the middle, and she wore large whitish-pink armored boots that reached up to her knees. Her shoulders were clothed in whitish-pink fabric and, meeting with the salmon-pink rings around the upper bicep, black fabric around the rest of her arms, to large whitish-pink spherical orbs on her wrists with pink straps on them. A wide white stripe descended down the middle of her chest, with 2 black spots by her neckline and a black stripe by the middle of her stomach. She also wore a white helmet on her head, a pink visor showing her whole face, with the white helmet arcing around her head, and pink handle-looking objects sticking out behind where yours would be. I should have been more specific for what I wanted, Uraraka said, nervously rubbing the back of her head. This bodysuit is skin-tight. You can say that again. Izuku muttered out. What was that? Uraraka asked. Oh, nothing. Izuku quickly corrected himself, blushing furiously. Miss Just, you look really good in that. Uraraka froze, her face suddenly red. Thank you Deku. Oh, so embarrassing. Uraraka stuttered, turning around and cupping her face in blushing embarrassment. Don't forget about us, easy. Yeah, we are starting to get jealous here, MIDORI. Indeed. How do we look? Izuku turned to where the voices we directed, and if his face was blushing red, it was like a tomato now. If their hero costumes were to be summarized in one word, it would be revealing. Momo's hero costume was a sleeveless crimson leotard that showed her slender arms and curvaceous legs in all their glory. Around her waist, doing a decent attempt to hide her hips and ass, were 2 golden utility belts, with a large brown book on the back. Around her shoulders and lining rest suit were silver lines and a thinner, smaller belt around the top portion of her chest, which directed Deku to the fact that her crimson leotard was open in the front, exposing her pearl white skin from her neck to her navel, and showing a generous amount of her cleavage. Mina's was the least revealing of the 3, but it certainly emphasized her rather attractive, athletic body very well. Mina's her suit consisted of a skin-tight purple and turquoise bodysuit, the camouflage patterning the colors of the suit. It clung onto her athletic body like a second skin, defining every curve eloquently, and ending just above her breasts, yet revealing a decent amount of her large cleavage. She finished up her attire with an unbuttoned, sleeveless, cropped tan waistcoat, white fur along the collar, violet and beige colored boots, and a white mask over her eyes. Higakure's was the most revealing, because all that she wore was a pair of light blue gloves and light brownish gray boots. Despite that lack of clothing, Higakure's invisibility quirk kept Deku and the rest of the class see her naked figure, though given all those times Higakure pressed up against him in their hugs, his active and analytical mind for once backfired on Izuku, having to slap himself from picturing Higakure's form in detail. Amazing. Izuku whispered out before encompassing and said, "You guys look great. I'm guessing that you wanted as much open skin for your quirks." Momo blushed before saying thank you, Izuku, and you were right as always. My quirk creates any object I want, but I need as much bare skin as possible to create it from anywhere. Thanks for the compliment, Midori. Mina purred, a tiny purple blush on her cheeks. I wanted my suit to be flexible enough for my dancing and agility, yet tight for extra appeal. Izuku's blush only grew when he heard the words tight and flexible. Same here, Kagakure said. Except for the creation thing, I kind of have to be fully naked if I need to be fully invisible. My quirk doesn't work on the clothing I wear. What about a suit made of your own hair? Izuku asked. Huh? The girls questioned. If your quirk transforms you invisible, why not commission a suit made of your own hair? Izuku continued. Your hair is also invisible, so if a support company can somehow integrate your hairs into a bodysuit, then you can theoretically be clothed and turn invisible without having to wear little clothing. Although, that would mean that Tori would have to somehow be able to turn her own quirk off, which seems part of the problem too. Mumble mumble mumble. The girl's sweat dropped as Izuku descended into a muttering spree. Does he do this often? Kagakure asked. More than you think. Momo sighed. The first time I told him about how my quirk works, he did this too. I had to create an air horn to snap him out of it. Let me try. Serena's voice popped up before splashing Izuku with some water. Izuku snapped out of his muttering and sputtered out the water in his mouth. Hey Izu, could stop here, albeit adorable, mumbling and tell me if I look good in this suit. Izuku stared at where Serena was and almost had another nuclear meltdown. Serena was wearing a full bodysuit that looked similar to a scuba diving wetsuit and scale-like body armor. The suit's base coloring was black and showed off Serena's curves, especially around her hips and legs. The suit then also had scale-like armor that reminded Izuku of some water-type Pokemon like Seadra. The scales armor placed around her shoulder blades, her chest, and knees and elbows. She also had several illuminating lines curving around her body that glowed neon blue, and that when Izuku squinted could see that it stored up water. Izuku also noticed her hands had a few filters around her suit, more specifically in her hands and sides of her chest. Serena's hair was also braided in a ponytail, the blue highlights trailing down her hair through her sides, and around her neck was a necklace that Izuku noticed during their hangouts, a simple silver link chain necklace with a blue oval-shaped jewel, with a red orb in the center with the 8 yellow dots surrounding it. Yeah. Izuku stuttered, feeling slightly dizzy from all the blood rushing to his head and other area. You look amazing. Serena blushed and smiled. Thank you, Izu. Oh, and what do we have here? So adorable. Izuku looked by his side to where Serena looked to see Pikachu, wearing a mask of his own that resembled Midoriya's own mask. It was green, black circles around the eyes. It covered his upper face to his ears, with a black lightning bolt on the forehead of the mask. In fact, the mask was sewn by Izuku's mom using the Luchador mask that Pikachu dug up from the formerly trash-filled Dagaba beach. Pika-pee. Pikachu cried out. So cute. The girls squealed, even the sophisticated Momo squealed and joined her fellow girls hounding the yellow mouse Pokemon. Izuku raised an eyebrow at the yellow rat as it basked smugly in the attention. Suck up. Izuku telepathically fired at his Pokemon. What boss, you jealous? Pikachu fired back. It's not my fault I'm adorable as hell. Izuku frowned comedically in slight jealousy. Meanwhile, the symbol of peace looked at his predecessor's hero suit, and his smile grew wider with pride. Those ears, lightning design, and shoulder pads are definitely inspired by Little Eevee and Pikachu, and that respirator mask resembles my smile. Yet this suit is all your own, young Midoriya. You look so cool that even I'm fanboying out. All might notice the group of girls that have grown close to his successor, and had to cough to prevent himself from laughing out loud. Though it appears you are on your way in another aspect, young Midoriya. So too does Pikachu apparently. Maybe I should keep this from Inko. I'm not sure whether she would pass out from a heart attack and fried her happiness. And maybe I should request a sex ed class be given to the students earlier than scheduled. All might quickly realize that the students turned their attention to him, his cough gaining their attention. Oh well, best to get the class started. Now? Shall we get started, you bunch of newbies? All Might said. Izuku's eyes lit up in realization. Wait a minute, are you ready for me to train you newbie? Gran Torino said the same thing before during our training before you, eh? Izuku thought. Ha, like teacher like student. I wonder if I will say the same thing. Now that you're ready, it's time for combat training. All Might continued. Sir, I have a question. Iida said. Izuku looked to Iida and his hero costume. It was an armored bodysuit, the armor painted pale silver, the chest plated relatively normal with a row of blue, lining with gold and yellow, down his stomach area, with 3 metal pipes on each side connecting down his torso and out his back, and with a navy blue, high collar around his neck. His arms were also armored, with another collar around his upper arms and shoulders, and a metal vambrace that extended pointed past the elbows and navy blue gloves for his hands. He wore large silver knee-high boots with golden accessories, and thicker built around the ankles. And to top it all off, he wore a helmet that masked his whole head, with its beaver full of holes that seemed to allow for him to speak and breathe properly. The top part of the helmet resembling a biker's helmet, 2 curved horns sticking out behind his head, and another singular one sticking out from the back of his head. He looks like a robot samurai mixed with a race car. Izuku thought. It's so cool. This is the fake city from our entrance exam. Iida continued. Will this mean we will be conducting urban battles again? Not quite. All Might responded. Instead, I will be bumping you up 2 steps ahead of the usual. Most of the villains heroes fight on the news happen outside. However, statistically, the most dastardly and conniving of villains and criminals that heroes face happen indoors. Backroom deals, home invasions, robberies, secret lairs, these kinds of encounters happen inside, with close spaces and twists and turns to evade and lose pros. Truly, the most intelligent and expert of evildoers hide and strike from the shadows. Izuku nodded, remembering his encounter with the sludge villain. It attacked him in a dark and covered area where nobody was present, and there was a single victim to strike and no heroes to help. If it hadn't been from All Might, I would have been dead and likely some meat puppet for that sludge villain. But there isn't an All Might or any hero in those places all the time. I was lucky. Others are not. For this training exercise, you will be split into teams of 2, good guys and bad guys, and fight 2-on-2 indoor battles. All Might announced. Isn't this a little too advanced? Asui asked. Before All Might could answer, he was bombarded with multiple other questions. Will you be the one deciding who wins, sir? Momo asked. How much can we hurt the other team? Bakugo growled out, sneaking a look towards Deku. Do we need to worry about the losing team getting expelled like last time? Uraraka asked nervously. Will we be able to use our Pokemon in this training exercise? Serena questioned. Will you be pairing us up on chance or comparative skill? Iida asked. Is this Cape Magnifique? Aoyama asked. All Might's happy smile became strained and annoyed. I wasn't finished talking. He croaked out annoyed. Plus, that last one was even important to the situation. He whispered that last part out. All Might coughed to get their attention before bringing out a stack of papers that he started to look over. Listen up. Izuku's sweat dropped while Pikachu gaped in disbelief. No, is it a script? Pikachu questioned. You're joking, right? Eevee communicated through his Pokeball. No, we are not. Izuku said through their telepathy. The situation is this. All Might began. The villains have hidden a nuclear missile somewhere in their hideout. The heroes must try to foil their plans. For the hero team to succeed, they either have to catch the villains or recover the weapon. Likewise, the villain team wins if they either capture the heroes or protect their payload till the timer runs out. Additionally, each team member will be allowed 1 Pokemon to use in the exercise, and they will be eliminated upon fainting or their partner's capture. He couldn't have just memorized that, Pikachu said. That was simple to remember. Pikachu, I think we need to go easy on him. Izuku telepathically responded. All Might only has experience teaching myself, not a whole group of students. To decide on teams, we will be drawing lots. All Might held out a yellow box with a slot and the word lots on the front. Isn't there a better way to decide on teams? Iida questioned. Think about it, Iida, Izuku responded. Heroes often have to team up with other agencies and pros on the spot. This training could help simulate that experience. I see, Iida said. Life is a series of random encounters and variables. Thinking on it now, it would be illogical any other way since it would waste time and energy. Excuse my rudeness. Iida bowed. No sweat. All Might said. Now let's draw. As the students selected their lots, a few had thoughts running through their heads on what they wanted. Don't pair me with her against Koch-chan. Don't pair me with her against Koch-chan. Thought the green cinnamon roll. Please pair me with Deku. Pretty please. Uraraka prayed with a blush. I wouldn't oppose being paired with Izuku. Momo thought, her cheeks glowing slightly. Hopefully, I'm paired with Izu. Serena thought. Please get me Izu's team. Please get me Izu's team. Higakure bounced in anticipation. I wonder if I will get Midori's team. It would be fun to tease him some more. Alone. Mina thought sultryly. Pair me against Deku. I want to finally put that useless nerd in his place. Thought our resident blonde Pomeranian. Finally the teams were drew. Team A. Ichako Uraraka, who looked excited, and Izuku Midoriya, who was nervous. Team B. Meizo Shoji and Shoto Todoroki, both looking stoic and blank. Team C. Serena Mariella and Momo Yaoi Rozo, the two smiling to be working with friends and yet secretly disappointed. Team D. Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Iida, the two looking at each other with clear signs of disappointment. Team E. Mina Ashido and Yuga Aoyama, one posing dramatically while the other slumped in disappointment. Team F. Koji Koda and Akito Sato, one nervous, the other pumped up. Team G. Denki Kaminari and Kyuka Jiro, one smirking with confidence, the other neutral. Team H. Fumikage Tokoyami and Tsuyu Asui, the two blank-faced. Team I. Mashiro Jiro and Tori Higakure, one nervous while the other was also disappointed. Team J. Handa Sero, his expression was masked by his helmet, and Ejiro Kirishima, who was pumped. Uraraka was cheering mentally like a mad woman, while the other girls stared in jealousy, and Izuku was nervous about who his team was up against. All Might stood between two boxes, the black one representing the villains, and the white one representing the heroes. The first teams to go up will be these guys. In his hands was a black ball with a D and a white orb with an A. Izuku's eyes widened in shock and slight horror, while Bakugo's widened in shock before switching to a malevolent smile. Team A will be the heroes and Team B will be the villains. Serena's eyes widened too in horror, paling at the notion of her Izu facing off against his bully. Momo, Mina, and Higakure too looked concerned over Izuku and Uraraka, especially with Bakugo's clear distaste towards Izuku. Ida gripped his hands in annoyance to have to fight against his new friends. Pikachu's eyes narrowed on the explosive teen. Finally, I get a chance to wipe the smug grin off your face. All Might meanwhile cursed at himself internally. Damn it, All Might. You just nicked your successor onto who you clearly suspect has been his bully. Damn it, I can't change the results. I will just have to trust in young Midoriya to come out on top. And come out in one piece. With that settled, the rest of us will head to the monitoring room to watch. Yes, sir. The rest of the class said. As they class walked away, Izuku was given some standard good lucks and be careful. Izuku felt a pair of eyes on him. He turned to see Bakugo glaring at him, his smirk gone and now serious looking. The old him would have flinched and cowered before that look. Not now. Izuku glared back, his eyes with steel determination. Bakugo, momentarily, flinched in surprise, before glaring back with a snarl. The two stared each other down, both, for once, having the same thing running through their heads. Bring it on. Thanks for listening. I do hope you enjoyed. If you want a next part of this video, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and turn on that bell notification. And also check out the other videos that I have created, and enjoy. See you in the next video. Peace.